I have short-term memory loss. Hi, jeg heter Phil. Oh, velkommen til Pretty Good Cookie. Today on the show, I'm going to teach you how to make a Norwegian dish called Plukkfisk. It looks like potatoes. To clarify why we are indulging in this effort, John, the cameraman, has taken upon itself to learn some Norwegian language, and therefore, by proxy, has learned some about the culture of Norway, and therefore has requested that I make this dish, which I have never made before, but it's fish and potatoes, which are the two main exports, and maybe not exports, but the two main things in Norway are fish and potatoes. When you think about Norway and its place in the world, it is next to Sweden, and it's not a very big country. There's not a whole lot going on there in the recent times other than they fish and they've got some oil, which has made them very wealthy. That is all of the serious history or a description I'm going to give you of Norway, but I did take a couple weeks of Old Norse in college and I don't remember much from that time, but I do remember the Old Norse word Oyapmadanader, which means an overbearing man. And in the Viking tradition, well, let me extend yet another story to this story, which is that if you read any of the sagas, which mainly happen in Iceland and Norway, there are kind of like literary tropes. So you could summarize a saga as such, where it'll be like Bjorn, who was a good farmer, thought it was a good idea to go to his neighbor's house, who he thought was an overbearing man, and hit him over the head with an axe. And then generations of bloodshed follow because, you know, once you've slayed some guy's brother, he's got to slay you, and then you've been slain, so your brother's got to avenge you, and that's why there aren't that many people left in Norway. I also want to say that the most interesting time in Norwegian history was when people were leaving Norway to go plunder other places or settle there. And all they really wanted to do, you know, was be good farmers, like any nice, wholesome person. But they had to kill people to do that because their farmland sucked. So I had to go get someone else's farm. I need to get some booze in me in order to get this rolling. So we were trying to, we didn't prep for this episode very much, which is kind of typical. So we kind of just were like, well, what's available to us? And we got some mead. I don't know if they drink mead in Norway recently, but at some point they did. We've got cider, and we got some Icelandic vodka called Reka, which I assume is a play off of Reykjavik. I'm sure Reka means something in their language, but I don't know what it is. Yeah, so in honor of all the Norwegians who left their homeland and went to Iceland, we're gonna have a shot of the legacy you left in Iceland, I guess. It's filtered through lava rocks, that's cool. Arctic spring water. I wish it was cold. I kind of think that this dish we're preparing would be best served in a cold time, not the heat of the summer. Skål! Tastes pretty good. Here's a cider from Michigan. There are plenty of Norwegians who came to America and settled in the Midwest. That's true. So flannel mouth is probably another gift of the Norwegians to Michigan. In researching this, this is a fairly traditional and famous dish, but it's kind of a leftovers dish. I think the direct analogy to American food would be something like tuna casserole. So you might eat it at your grandparents' house, or maybe your mom made it on a weeknight. But not a lot of people get excited about Plukkfisk because it starts with cooked fish, and you gotta eat that fish because you don't want it to go to waste. I have that YouTube comment stuck in my head that I'm sad on the show all the time now, and it's just one of those things where I know what you mean. It's from the point where I stopped being blackout drunk on the show all the time. But I also feel like I don't need to make an excuse for like being a normal person who after working for a day is tired. And like this is fun for me, but I have like a naturally grumpy disposition sometimes, and also sometimes John makes fun of me, and so I get sad. So sometimes it's John's fault. But in general, I'm happy in life, and I don't have to prove anything to you, so what I'm trying to say is suck my dick. If you're a Norwegian viewer, you should be nice to John, because he's the only reason you're on the show. Not that there's anything wrong with Norway, I don't know, I haven't thought about you guys in a while. Okay, I need to get some pots and pans. Plukkfisk means pluck fish. I'm gonna put some unwashed potatoes in here. I'm not washing them because I'm gonna boil them, and they look pretty clean, and I don't care. Just like your Norwegian mother. 10 golden Yukon potatoes. That's like almost a bag. This is gonna make a load of food, dude. Hope you are hungry. Alright, here's our potatoes. God bless. This seems like a complicated leftovers dish. You need like 4 or 5 pans for this. I gotta cook the potatoes, I gotta cook the fish, I gotta cook the sauce to make the fish and potatoes more bearable to eat. This seems like a lot of work. I got 1.5 pounds of cod. That doesn't smell too fresh. Kroger, please. Like the kind of dish we're making, it's like I'm even questioning like, is seasoning it authentic? Do Norwegians use salt? I don't know. If you're a Norwegian grandma, please correct us via postcard. Do I need to put anything on here? I don't think so. I'm just gonna bake them in the raw. I didn't turn it on yet. Let's do 400. A note on what I'm doing. You don't need to make that fish taste fancy in the way we're doing it, because we're gonna put more flavor on top of it, and I think it'll just be overkill. If you were like, I'm gonna make the nicest piece of fish, I'm gonna broil it, flambe, saute, double, farte, bobby flay the fish, and then you were like, put it in this context of being mixed together with potatoes and putting a giant slab of butter and then bacon on top, like, you're not gonna appreciate the iteration of that fish. We probably should have just microwaved it. Just kidding, I wouldn't do that. I have to say though, the other day at the office, because everyone loves to hear me talk about corporate offices, someone microwaved fish, and I feel like that is like so inanely stupid at this point. Like, everyone knows you're not supposed to do that. And I was like, hey man, I was like, smells like microwave fish in here. Guess I'm just gonna barf in my desk. Let's cook some bacon. You can cook the bacon anytime, because you don't need the bacon to be like super hot. It can just be regular. Basically, as I understand it, this is an optional thing, but it is a traditional ingredient. I got double smoked because I thought it would add more flavor to the dish. But like, you got your fish and potatoes, and it looks like a pile of white and brown, and you're like, let's put some bacon on that. And that's how you say it in the proper Norwegian accent. Go, I'm gonna put some bacon on that. In case you're curious. This is thick cut bacon. I am going to use, how many is it, like 6? 5? 6? 6. 6 strips, and I'm gonna cut them kind of small because I want them to be kind of bite-size like. Probably should turn this pan on, but I'm not really a cooking expert, so. Did you know if you leave bacon in a pan long enough, it'll just cook itself? Someone will turn that pan on. Alright, let's make a roux for our sauce. This is 5 tablespoons of butter, and I just had a thought, which is I should chop it up. Your butter will melt better if it is not in a single piece. That is an ancient Norwegian proverb. Medium heat, let that melt some. We could take this time to look at the bacon. It's cooking. Looks like shit. Also, we looked up our analytics about Norwegian viewers. There have been 2,500 lifetime views of our videos from Pretty Good Cooking from Norway, who watch Pretty Good Cooking, which represents roughly 0.5% of all views. 0.5, not bad. In fact, it is less than Sweden, as we confirmed, but more than Denmark. While everything's doing whatever, I'm gonna measure out some flour for the roux. The rule of thumb is to use equal parts flour and butter. So that was 5 tablespoons butter. We'll use 5 tablespoons flour. I hope somebody appreciated that pun, but most likely nobody will. Because I don't know if people like our show. I think they just watch it to pass the time. Sad Phil. Sometimes I walk in the grocery store and people aren't really looking where they're going, and then I have to walk around them, and I'm like, well, I guess they didn't even acknowledge my existence. So, shit. Sad Phil. This is probably almost done. I gotta slice all these onions. I feel like this is a bizarrely large amount of onions. Like, I'm supposed to do 2 onions and a leek. Don't you think that's a lot? Here's our leek. I think I'm gonna cut it in half and then we'll chop thin slices. If you got a real floppy outside, you can discard some of that. I actually really like leeks, and I don't really cook with them very often, so I don't know what I'm doing with my life. We'll get some green stuff in here, but not too much of it. It gets pretty tough, and we will reserve a little bit of that for the garnish, I hope. It's house time. So here's some of our flour. Added a little bit of time and whisk. You can let it foam. I strongly prefer the little bit at a time method, because otherwise you end up with lumpy shit sauce, which is not traditional in Norwegian culture. We also don't want to let this brown too long. We can let it bubble briefly, but we're gonna add whole milk. This is 1 pint of whole milk. So add and mix and let it thicken up. I feel like that's plenty of sauce. So let that be a lesson to you. I think I'm about ready for that mead. Should pour us some glasses. All right, mead, skål. Lord, that's sweet. Fish needs to come out. No time for cheers. In Norway, there were once bears, like this bear hand. That's how you get people named Bjorn. It means bear. Also, there's bears in Skyrim, so there's probably bears in Norway. Skyrim belongs to the Norwegians. There's our flaky cod. You can tell it's done because it's flaky, falling apart. Whisk, whisk, whisk over here. Salt, a healthy amount, and some fine white pepper for flavor. That's a lot, but that's okay. And we need some nutmeg. It might not have nutmeg. Oh, it's just a little bit. A couple dashes. That's actually quite a bit. Send the heat down, kind of a medium-low. Bacon's done. Potatoes are probably done. Probably should strain them. Okay, so lasso butter. This is the other 3 tablespoons from that stick. Throw it in our big pan here. Medium-high heat. These are our reserved garnish leeks, because, you know, dumping raw leeks on something is a great idea. Our bacon's done. We can drain it if we want, but I don't care, so I'm not going to. I'm not going to. While that's melting, I will drain these. This really feels like a lot of work for fish and potatoes. It's supposed to let your potatoes cool a bit, but I don't think we're gonna have time for that. I actually didn't test to see if they're done either, so there's that. We're gambling. I'll poke them with something. They are done. Done enough. All right, let's get our onions cooking. The leek and onions. And a little bit of flour from cross-contamination. Yeah, like how the f would 2 onions fit in there? You'd have to have like the biggest pot in the world. I should have used the bigger pot, I think. Too late now. All right, sauce all the way down to low. It's pretty nice and thick. You can feel the viscosity has increased when you're running a whisk through it. Smells good. I love leek. Another stick of butter out. Probably should have let that come to temperature. Look at all these dishes I've used for a leftover dish. This doesn't seem right to me. All right, we gotta cube our potatoes, and we have to do so gingerly because we didn't let them cool. So you can use a glove, or you can just do your best. Just do your best. I would say like rough cubes. I think 10 potatoes was too many. Just from experience, that seems like a lot of potatoes. I feel like we're making enough food to feed a nation that is bigger than Norway, like most nations. I'll be doing this for a while. Okay, our onions look like they're cooked, and I'm worried about space in this pan, so I'm gonna start with 6 chopped potatoes. I've already filled up the pan. Gonna chop my fish. That's the pluck part. Fish. Fish from my potatoes. For God and potato country. Get in there, you fish. Fish. Also, I've seen people put peas and carrots in this on the internet, but I didn't want to add too much nutrition. You think we could fit more potato in there? I think we could. I'll keep chopping. The other 4 potatoes. I guess they fit. Now it's time for sauce. This looks pretty thick. We might have to thin it out a little bit. No one's gonna make this. No one is gonna make this. Turn the heat down. What the f am I doing? Turn the heat down, down to the 1 mark. Fish and potatoes. If it's too gloppy, you can add more milk. If you have more milk, you can add water. You can add almond milk, which I might do.
Disgraceful.
It's not disgraceful. Norwegians are healthy apart from the apparently exorbitant amount of butter they consume. But when you're only eating fish and potatoes, I don't think it's a big deal. I just add some half and half. What the f ever. Half and half. Half of the half and half is whole milk. That's how it adds up if you think about it. Half of the half and half is whole milk. So half plus half equals a whole milk. What a beautiful dish. I feel like I'm gonna eat 2 bites of this and I'll never be hungry again. All right, let's salt that. Because anything that looks like this is gonna need salt. Let's just finish this bitch. It's gotta be done, right? I don't have any forks. I'm not sure if they use forks in Norway. Here's a fish and potato. I'm just trying it out. It's gonna be too hot. I'm gonna burn my mouth. While it is edible, I did not cook the potatoes quite long enough. So they're a little al dente. They're fully cooked. They're just not quite as like pillowy as I would think. So I think I'm gonna let this, we just let it sit for a little bit. I might put a lid on it. It's got pretty decent flavor. Definitely needs 5,000% more salt. I might pour all of the bacon grease in there too. But yeah, actually let's bacon it up. Some bacon on the top. Slices of bacon, a traditional topping. It actually is, that's how it's described, a traditional Norwegian topping. Slices of bacon. You know, you could make this without the fish and it would be a pretty normal dish. And then of course, for some color, some leeks. Wow, you've made it look so much better. Plus, like letting it cook with the lid on will cook those leeks briefly. Ta-da! The lid is on! All right, look at our beautiful dish. 5 or 10 minutes. It is starting to burn in the middle, just like your Norwegian mother. Let's serve it up, serve it up. The fish has become somewhat indistinguishable from the potato. That's okay. I think that's the point. And you gotta put butter on it. I read not to be afraid of the butter because it's supposed to be the main flavor. I'm gonna add more salt because every time I've tasted it, I'm like, God damn, this needs more salt. Let's eat it. I gotta make sure I get fish and potato. It was really hot, temperature-wise, but it's very tasty. It reminds me of like any kind of like stroganoff or like casserole or like, it's almost like leek and potato soup with fish in it. The fish like is almost like an afterthought. Like I can barely even taste the fish in it. It's a mild fish anyways, but I assume it makes the dish have more protein, so that's good. But yeah, it's pretty good. So if you want to make this, you can. I would make it again if I had to use like 50% less pots. So I guess I'm not making it. Very buttery. I can taste the leeks and I think those are nice, but really just like the creaminess and the potatoes and bacon and stuff, it's like almost like the fish isn't even there. It's just potatoes. So nice job making potatoes, everybody. Bye in Norwegian. That's how you do it. Now I'm gonna eat it. Ha de bra.